In the age of rancid CGI dumpster fires and depressing attempts at blockbusters, I am so glad that Tom Cruise is alive and about, because that man has a passion for entertaining, and say what you want about him, but he delivers. And this new Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1. It's just a 2-hour, wild, exhilarating ride that makes you feel so rewarded and validated for being a fan of, like, movies in general. This movie feels like such a realization of the potential of movies to entertain and make a crowd feel things. It's fun, it's thrilling, it makes you laugh, gets you worried. The visuals, the action scenes, all crafted with the intention of entertaining and honoring the audience. And first of all, thank the Lord there's still movie making like this out there for big budget blockbusters. This level of attention and dedication to the craft of movie making, it's out there and exists in a lot of indie and small budget films. There's a lot of it in auteur cinema and a lot of it in passion projects and awards films. There's a lot of this dedication to the craft of movie making, but you rarely see this level of, again, craft in these giant blockbusters. There's the Mission Impossible movies, there's Avatar with James Cameron, the John Wick movies a bit, but outside of that, I'm not sure I can name many other tentpole big budget blockbuster films that feel as passionate and as artistically driven. Mad Max Fury Road, that's one. But that was a while ago, and Spider-Verse actually, films that have such a high dedication and love and respect for their audience and made with such passion and attention and technical skill. And yeah, we can argue, are these commercial films really art when they're commercial in the first place? But I think it's an art being able to craft films, action films especially, they're so underappreciated, but I think it's an art to be able to craft action films that actually evoke, feeling, emotion, worry, thrill, excitement from audiences. Why did I say students? But to be able to evoke emotion like that from audiences, it's so hard to do in action. And if it was easy, why do these other action films flop then? I know it's not recognized that much, but there is an art to action movie making.
Am I own?
And don't get me wrong, hello, I'm an MCU fan. The Fast and Furious movies, I love them. The absurdity of Vin Diesel and his family feels like camp for a heterosexual male perspective. The ghoulish Resident Evil films starring Alice with barely any story or any semblance of the video games, I can't get enough of those. So I'm not a picky movie watcher. Give me a woman with a gun or a car chase or a hallway fight scene or someone in a tank top, and I will watch, I will find a way to enjoy an action film. But come on, we as a society have to collectively admit, and I think we already do in a lot of ways, that at some point in the last decade, there was a point that these tentpole giant blockbusters crossed a line where they became this sort of generic factory-made gray sludge that sometimes feel like they put a blurring fog in your brain. And Tom Cruise isn't an exception to that. The Mummy? What the hello? What I'm trying to say is, there is a place, and it is okay and valid to have fun in these cheesy, bad action movies, but it's a dire situation in filmmaking and in the film industry if all the movies are bad movies. And we're at a dangerous point when there's a huge amount of homogeneity in a lot of these films that just feel similar. And I'm so glad that there are actual action movies still. Movies like this one that come out with their own level of dedication to the craft. I'm not saying that there's anything new in Mission Impossible. It's the same type of Mission Impossible films that works. But it works really well, and I don't think it should be ridiculed for not reinventing the wheel. It's great. It's great for what it is. It knows what it is, and it does it well, and that's good enough. In fact, no, it's not just good enough. This film isn't just good enough. In this landscape, this movie is a fucking masterpiece.
Listen to me. The world's coming after you.
The way giant blockbusters have devolved into this $200 million bad CGI, everything's a cinematic universe, bad de-aging technology, reviving dead people, horrible writing, green screen mess, I am fully blaming all of that on greedy, money-hungry fart-fuck studio executives who think that the formula to a good movie involves a famous IP, a $150 million marketing campaign, recognizable stars, cameos, crossovers, a blue or green screen, and nostalgia. Who think that, hey, a good story and a great script are not fundamental parts of a good movie. No, it's optional. So in this day and age, in this theatrical landscape, I'm glad and delighted and grateful that there are still people like Tom Cruise and McQuarrie who are here and are committed to delivering a good time for their audiences. It's a matter of respect, and that feels so rewarding. It makes you feel glad that you left your house and went to the theater. And yeah, this movie has great set pieces, some of the best in modern films, I think, and we will talk about that in a minute. But before that, I just want to compliment the achievement in story making, story crafting, and writing that was able to coherently weave these set pieces together. I'm not sure how pre-production for the Mission Impossible films go, and I know they can vary from film to film. It could be that they think of the story first and then the set pieces they want, or it could be the other way around where they think of the set pieces first and then just weave those set pieces together with a story. I'm not sure how it goes in the Mission Impossible films, but I do know that a great script and great direction can make you forget the difference. I always think when there are scenes in movies that people walk away from thinking it felt forced, saying that one scene kind of felt out of place, that one scene kind of felt forced, I always think it's a script or a direction failure. So I think the fact that all of these set pieces blend together seamlessly, these giant set pieces are all seamlessly woven together in this film, I just have to say I think that's an achievement in storytelling. Also, I do need to point out it could be that if you walk away from a film and think that there was one scene that felt out of place or just forced, maybe it isn't a writing or a direction failure because maybe at the end of the day, it was a mandate from one of those studio producers, those executives that mandated a scene be involved, even though both the director and the writer will argue about it because it doesn't make sense to the story. But because the producer said it has to be involved in this movie, they're forced to just put it in the film. Like how Joss Whedon was forced to tie in the Infinity Stones in Age of Ultron. Also, remember that one producer who wanted a Superman film to have Superman fight a giant spider? There's this writer, find it on YouTube, I forgot about it, but maybe just Google Superman and giant spider. But there was this one writer who was approached by a producer to try to commission the writer to write a Superman movie, and I think the producer gave a mandate that Superman has to fight a giant spider. Yeah, that's not a writer or director failure. That, again, is these ghoulish studio executives working. Quick inventory of these studio executives' great ideas so far. We have Quibi, there's Superman versus Giant Spider, and there's also the Monster Universe, and that's just 3 of their great ideas. So the fact that Mission Impossible again exists and cohesively tells a narrative that was able to allow for these large pulse-pounding set pieces to happen, kudos to the team and everyone behind it. I think that's an achievement in story crafting and script writing, and wow, thank you for letting me see it. And here we go, the set pieces themselves. I'm not going to surprise anyone when I say that they are spectacular, but I will surprise everyone when I say that they were pieces of No, the set pieces were great. Tom Cruise is a showman of action, and I'm really glad that we're having this time right now. We're really having this time when a lot of action stars are really taking the action scenes really seriously. I mean, Charlize Theron, John Wick, no, Keanu Reeves. His name is Keanu Reeves. I'm really glad that we're entering this age where there are these actors who are committed to action. And this is kind of silly, but I do see Tom Cruise in the same way that I see Beyonce or Lady Gaga in the pop world. Complete artists in control of their bodies of work with an iron-willed commitment to entertain their audiences. Can you tell I'm glad artists like them exist? I don't think you can tell. So let me tell you, I am glad that artists like them exist. These set pieces are shot practically, real life and live action as much as possible with as little CGI as reality can permit. And by the way, CGI is good, it's not bad. CGI is great when used properly. This movie has CGI. CGI itself, as many great YouTubers have told you, I'm sure, is not bad. It's just how it's used. But I do just have to say, practical effects, they really just have a different feeling to them when you watch them on screen. And even when they're not practical, even when it's CGI, if used properly and done well, that your brain can't tell the difference, it just hits different. It just hits different when you fully believe the thing you're watching on screen. The action scenes, set pieces in this movie are shot as practically as possible, and they're just so fun and exhilarating. And you know, I'm not saying that every other movie should have someone jumping off a cliff on a motorbike for real. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the way CGI is being used, there's these movies where there are these scenes that don't even need to be shot in a blue or green screen, that can be shot on location, but for some reason they've made the choice to just CGI the whole background and just shoot it in a green or blue screen, and as a result, it does not look good. Not as good as this.
It's not just a matter of going off, because if we do it all, we don't capture it right, what's the point?
And again, another reason as to why these set pieces are so great, it's not just because they're shot mostly practical, but they're also written very well. That's one thing that a lot of modern blockbusters are forgetting, that you do have to write fight scenes to make them interesting and exciting. When a set piece is happening in this movie, there's always something at stake. When the characters are fighting, there's always something at stake. There's always something in jeopardy. And the movie always makes it clear what each fight and set piece is for. You get really worried and thrilled, and you actually give a shit when people are kicking each other or chasing each other on cars and shit. because you know what you could lose and you know what you're caring about in this scene.
What's your...
I know I already talked a lot about Tom Cruise too, but after finishing this movie, it did make me sad that he's old now. And I don't mean that in like, oh, no. What I mean is, arguably he's at his peak. Artistically, creatively, we're at a point in filmmaking that we have all this technology and resources that can help this man do the things that he wants to do. I think he's the entertainer that he's always dreamed of being nowadays, but because of his age, he's just not going to be able to do it for long. And that makes me feel really glad that I'm witnessing him right now, and also kind of sad that it's gonna end one day. That kind of talent and skill and dedication that he has for his craft, that is a once-in-a-generation thing. I'd be really sad the day this man retires, especially with his dedication to his craft nowadays. And I wish I could have 30 or 40 more years of this Tom Cruise. You know what I'm gonna take? I'm gonna take that back. Knowing the environment of movies right now, with actor likenesses and AI and CGI and reviving dead actors and scanning people to have them digitally act, no, I'm taking that back. I'm glad. You know what? I am eager. I am eager and waiting for the day that Tom Cruise finally retires. And I hope to heavens none of you ghoulish producers and studio executives use his digital zombie likeness for your perverted cash grabs. Girl, you have lost the plot. But Tom Cruise aside, everyone in this movie is great. Rebecca, love her. I know her personally. Lady Jessica, the gang, they're as great as ever. Simon Pegg is probably a pro at panicking in these films, and he's great. Ving Rhames, I love the guy. There's an action movie called The Tournament with Ving, and if you can find it, watch it, because it's fun. Miss Palm is here, love her. Light spoilers, but there was a scene where she was fighting Tom Cruise and I got really worried for her. He was beating her up, but it was great. There's such a weight in these action scenes that I was actually really worried, but you know, Palm is amazing in this film. And a standout is of course Peggy, Miss Margaret Carter, Hayley Atwell. I never really cared for her as Peggy, I thought she was always meh. Granted, I never saw her own show, but my gosh, she's amazing here. I was initially annoyed thinking, oh, the boring actress for Marvel is sharing most of the screen time here. But she proved me wrong, and I'm glad. I apologize, Ms. Atwell. I guess Marvel really just did you dirty with Peggy in the movies. She's great here. This movie also, I think, is the funniest in this franchise. I know the other movies had comedy in them, but I don't think they were this funny. I was straight out laughing in the movie theater, just howling in laughter. And there we go, it was such a fun time, and I feel so glad to be alive at a time when Mr. Tom Cruise is out here doing his thing. He's not doing this for awards and stuff, because the Oscars don't really honor this type of performance, which I think is bullshit. But he's amazing, and I'm glad we all collectively recognize his passion for movies. With the recent failures of Black Adam and The Flash and Ant-Man, and the recent success of films driven by creative vision and passion, I really do hope that we can start the journey towards a time where we stop throwing $300 million on stuff like The Flash. Like, come on, you guys. The Resident Evil movies are a pile of trash. Broken glass, raccoon poop, viral stuff. It's a dumpster fire. But they don't cost $300 million. $65 million is the most expensive one. And if your pile of trash costs $300 million, but it's just as foul and rotted and rancid as a $65 million pile of trash, then you, sir, are dumb.